Yo, how are you doing, folks? Welcome to episode 118. My brain is trying so hard to not say 118, 118. Fucking British marketing and advertising, which we'll get onto, I suppose, in this conversation, given who we have on today, who I'll introduce shortly. You may have missed my beautiful face. I'm getting ever grey here. I still haven't cut my hair. It's going a bit manic. But yeah, I've taken up a month for mental health, and I'm just chilling. And as I give a pre-warning to today's guest, I am back microdosing LSD, so today might be quite an interesting conversation. I'm not going to raffle. I'm not going to raffle the weather, that's for sure. I'm not going to waffle on much further about the weather as I do in most of the intros of this episode, folks. It's been pretty shitty, and it's going to be pretty shitty until I'm told by the Met Office it's going to clear up for a few weeks' time. There's going to be a spot, although to be fair, it's going to get a bit smoky, but there is some sun behind the smoke, I promise you. So today's guest this is all going to make sense when you hear this. It'll all make sense in your little brains, trust me. Today's guest is a marketing and sales veteran, formerly of Facebook, and we'll get onto that. Or I suppose Meta these days, but who the fuck calls it Meta?
Not in my day. Not in my
day. They are the Chief Executive Officer of Milk and Amber, a UK-based cannabis marketing agency, and the Chief Executive Officer of Product Earth, the UK's largest, and what's now termed, natural medicine weekend experience, back for its 8th year. We'll get into the terminology of that shortly with today's guest, Matt Clifton. How are you doing, brother?
Hello, Simpa. Thank you for having me. Great to be here as always. Deep breaths.
Deep breath.
I can actually take a handful of mushrooms or something just to kind of like
balance it out. Hell yeah. I've been saying for a while I do want to do an outdoor podcast. I want to take my a table, chair set up and the mics and whatever else and sit in a forest and take some mushrooms to somebody and do a podcast. I think that would be wonderful, because after a while you'd need that really panned camera shot as we both kind of take our headphones off and you're laying in the grass and like, look at this, I found a bug. But yeah, wonderful experience. I'm not sure the audience I'm sure the audience will enjoy it, to be fair.
They would tune in for that.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, stay tuned, folks, for Simpa in the Wild. I suppose it's been a year. I think it's just been over a year, actually, since we had you last on the podcast. So for anybody that doesn't know yourself, could you give us a brief summation of kind of what brought you here? Well, not brought you here today because you sat in your kitchen and it was probably your legs from your bed. But what led up to you being kind of in the position you are today?
Yeah, so I sales and marketing jobs for 25 odd years. Worked at places like the Financial Times, which is very different, and then one of the first employees at Facebook outside of the US, and I did a 12-year stint there. Headed up product marketing for Europe, Middle East, and Africa, for small and medium-sized businesses. I like helping small businesses grow, and my job was basically 5 million people, help them use Facebook in the most optimal way. Clearly, people are struggling still, so I didn't do too good a job. I'd like to think it was better when I was there, but it was a fun job. But do you know what? You spend your life on airplanes, long days. I've got a 7-year-old who's joined me on the podcast today, and I missed seeing him. I wouldn't see him from Sunday till Thursday. And my friend Gavin Satyanathan, who you know very well, he worked at Facebook with me, and I kind of said, Gav, I need to invest in cannabis. And he came back and said, I've got the thing for you. It's Product Earth. Here you go. So I invested. And then a couple of weeks later, they said, oh, do you know what? Maybe you should be the CEO, because you've kind of got this corporate background where you understand how to work in the corporate world, but you are just obviously a cannabis consumer and consume cannabis every single day. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds amazing. So, they had like a map-shaped hole running through the front doors of Facebook out to try and start working in the cannabis world. So that's how I got into it. But that was, I walked the show in 2019, but unfortunately, pandemic struck. So I never got to do my first show. Didn't earn a salary for 18 months, anything like that, which my wife was obviously thrilled about. And then when we got to Christmas 2020, we wanted to do something for the community before we kind of all just gave up. James Walton, the founder, said, rolling competition. So we created the High Roller World Cup. I rolled a joint on the kitchen table, put a few things like your favorite legal herb and no combustion, and listed it as an art company. So technically it was an origami competition, so there was nothing they could do. And we got some sponsors behind it, reached loads and loads of people, and that's how Milk and Amber was actually born, the cannabis or natural medicine marketing agency. And it's called Milk and Amber, based on the changing colour of trichomes and the personal choice of farmer makes of when they actually chop the plant, because everyone's marketing needs are different. Boom.
We
were pretty high up with that.
I can imagine so, and I can see how it works. It's
yeah, some of the best ideas come out when you've had a nice little vape, shall we say, keep it clean. And then, the show came back on in 2021. We were a bit worried being in the pandemic, but we had about 3,000 people there. And that's where we started to become this experience. I saw one of the people at the show in 2019 brought a skateboard. I know what, let's put a skate park in. So in goes a skate park. Obviously, cannabis was legalized November 2018 for prescription, privately, mostly. So we introduced a medical zone, and we kind of just built from there. 2022, 50% growth year on year, still in a pandemic. So that was great last year, 4,500 people. We made some mistakes, no doubt about it, but I'd rather own my mistakes than pretend there weren't any. So I had to reinvest in a lot of infrastructure this year. A lot of infrastructure, new T's and C's, getting the right people in to exhibit. And so this year is setting out to be the best we've ever done, for sure. Otherwise, I'm this tired for no reason at all. But you'll feel it this year. It's end to end. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep, no matter who you are, you will take different paths throughout the show and still have an equally good time. Obviously, the people that are camping, they will have the best experience because they're going to witness it all. But yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. And like you said, the sun's supposed to be shining, so happy days.
It is. It's looking good. To be fair, I don't want to jinx it, but I have been sat in enough rain for the past couple of weeks. I want some sunshine. I know I always bitch about weather on this. I've had the odd comment from Americans that listen to this podcast going, "Why do you always go on about the weather?" I'm like, I live in the northeast of England. If you did, you would understand it. We're British, yeah, exactly. And up here, sun's a rarity. I think I saw it flash past my blinds there for a moment, and I was just like, I'm eager to jump out the window and go gather it, go lay in its rays. You know what I mean? But yeah, exactly. The weather's looking good. I think obviously some people recently with some events have maybe had a bit of a difficult time with the weather. So hopefully that won't be an issue for Product Earth, and obviously you guys can concentrate on making the best show possible. So I suppose you're making some big claims here, Matt. What's different this year to last year? Obviously, last year was a good show. I'm not doubting it. Oh, you lost sound. Oh, no, we broke it. I think what we were saying was I'd asked you what's different this year at the show that's going to make it so grand of an experience.
Yes. So like you said, we're kind of introducing ourselves slightly differently this year. Big focus on natural medicines. Few reasons, to be honest. There is a natural trend with people taking more, and I think this is driven by the pandemic, to be honest, more control or interest in their own personal well-being. You've seen me wax lyrical about London nootropic coffees, right? I just can't get enough of them. I have every single day, whether it's a Flow or a Mojo. I don't really have the Zen ones, weirdly enough, but absolutely love those. And there's so many natural medicines now which people are taking. So we're just kind of capitalizing on that trend. These are all products of the earth. So that works for us. And then, so that's a big one. And I think when I've got my activist hat on, I like to think that one of the problems with cannabis is, I speak all my friends that smoke cannabis or consume cannabis or whatever, I speak to them about it constantly. But I'm not changing their opinion on anything because they're already on board. And I think we do suffer with falling into talking in echo chambers and not really moving the conversation forwards. So now when I'm talking to people about nootropics, and let's be honest, right, something like CBD, it's not about what you feel, it's what you don't feel, the aches and the pains and the anxiety, everything like that. Nootropics, you feel it. You instantly feel better. Now, why is that absolutely fine? And you could argue is medicinal or therapeutic. And my cannabis intake, whilst I don't like recreational as a term, my adult use of cannabis can just be for fun. Sometimes it is for medicinal or therapeutic benefits as well. Why is one allowed and one's not? It's crazy. And I think the more lines that we draw and more similarities we draw between all of these different things, the more mainstream the conversation becomes. And we've had a lot of interesting feedback from people. I mean, technically, the BBC could be turning up to cover the show this year, which is kind of exciting, as could Vice, as could The Guardian. Like, people are looking at what we're doing and they're genuinely interested. And whilst we'll never forget our roots, which are deep, deep in the cannabis world, there's nothing wrong with having a broader vision and dream and way of approaching everything. I'll never put other people's methods down. This is just the way that we're trying to do it with Product Earth. And that's why natural medicines you'll hear us talk about far more frequently than just kind of cannabis in isolation. And then the third reason is it's much easier to do marketing when you're talking about natural medicines and not cannabis, which just gets flagged by AI all over the place. So that's the big one. That's the big one. And you'll see there's a lot of different types of brands. There'll be lots of mushroom brands at the show for you to come and understand more about lion's mane and cordyceps and all of these wonderful things. And actually, it kind of flows into different components of the show as well. So on Sunday, we've got Grow Sunday. Really excited about this. This was another James Walton drop an idea on you, Matt, then run away, and I have to try and get it into something. But Garden Culture magazine, who's one of our clients with Milk and Amber, they are putting all the content together. So it's going to be like a physical manifestation of one of the editions of their magazine. If you haven't seen Garden Culture magazine, they're in your local grow shop. Just go and pick one up. They're awesome. And so on Sunday, you're going to have, in the seminar zone, all the chairs are going to get kicked out, workbenches are coming in, and yeah, you're going to be taught how to build a hydroponic setup. You're going to learn how to work with mycelium and grow mushrooms, and you can make your own living soil and make microgreens and all of these wonderful things. And then once you've learned how to grow your own mushrooms, wander on over to the food demo area and you'll get a lesson in how to make nootropic mocktails. Of all things, I have no idea what they're going to taste like. If they taste hard,
interesting,
bang into it. And Neil's back, our F&B director, so he's going to teach everyone how to make the perfect munchie burger. And then we've got our usual chocolatiers and stuff like that. So food demos there. The seminar zone. Oh, did I tell you we're now CPD accredited?
So I saw it on Facebook page when I was doing research this morning, just double checking everything. Yeah, I was going to sort of mention it. How did that sort of come about?
This is kind of cool. So we've always said like education's in our DNA, but I guess we're just leaning into that now because there is so much misinformation. It's ridiculous. And people are now realizing there are careers in cannabis as well. So I wanted to make Product Earth, or we wanted to make Product Earth, a true educational platform that can further people's careers, because that's really what we are. We're a platform trying to help other people. So now, by going to the seminar zone, the QR code will pop up afterwards. You scan it, and then you can get these CPD points. And so then when you apply for a job, you can say, look at the points that I've got, and that will naturally make you a better candidate because it's your commitment to learning. And commitment to personal development, CPD. So that is really cool. So actually, technically, Simpa, when people come up and hear you talk on Saturday, you're helping build people's careers.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. Scary thought.
Interesting.
Yeah, but it's we have to do these things. If we have to up level ourselves every single year. Standing still means you will just die, and we have no intention of doing that. We intend on seeing this all the way through. You know, one day, full legalization, it's going to be a farmer's market with just beautiful craft cannabis everywhere. But until we get there, we need to be looking at these different avenues and make sure that we cater for everyone and an expanding audience.
I think all very good. I appreciate your TED talk. Thank you for coming. No, it was very good. I think very concise. Obviously, you can tell your experience here, Matt. I'm sold. Obviously, I'm sold on Product Earth since the first day I walked in.
Yeah,
but no, I think the evolution is necessary. And I think the image in my head was like bubbles making Venn diagrams collapsing into a larger bubble. And so the more we associate to others and the education spreads, and we can get the people in cacao and the people in nutritopics, I kind of really struggle with the wording there, like the enunciation of it, and these various other kind of wellness, lifestyle kind of adjacent things, then yeah, the remit of the culture suddenly becomes larger. Its influence and its ability to, as you say, operate around the certain limitations of the word cannabis, which I fucking love, and I hate the idea of the censorship. And I guess my final point would be one of slight contention. All the homies that I know over in the States, in their legalized states, they can't operate these farmers markets. It's There's issues with, I get the sentiment of the end of the war. Yeah, when the end of the war is over or cannabis prohibition is ended, then yeah, it will be not a free for all per se, but it will be classic neoliberal free market capitalism. And so there will be that kind of rush, then there will be the clearing of it. But I think until we create that even playing field, entities like yourself that have that desire to protect the roots have to find financial ways to survive. You have to find ways to innovate. And I think by doing that, you bring more, as you say, attention to cannabis. My only worry, and you know me, my only worry is in the language of, does it state that then all cannabis is medicine in that way, or medicinal? Because if medicinal is then a function, as in you use something medicinally, and medicine is then in the remit of like the pharmaceutical world, I just worry too close. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with the CBPMs, and there's a lot wrong with the current private system, but the conceptual idea of cannabis-based medicinal products for human consumption, not against. The idea of bespoke, really nuanced patented drugs and treatments and therapies, I agree with conceptually going over and doing that. But then denying people the opportunity to just medicinally use it, cultivate it, access it, it creates that kind of binary. And I worry that, I'm not saying Product Earth is doing this. I'm just kind of articulating this, and I'm trying to, as I always do. I'm not saying that you are. I just again worry that too far down, kind of, if then it becomes too ambiguous and removed, that the people who are just cannabis, do they feel is equally represented? That's all kind of my fear, is that yes, the industries are advancing and there's all these people making all this money, but fuck, my friends are still in prison. I still risk going to prison every day. Like this, so that's the only thing I'm trying to like get to in my TED talk, in my rebuttal here, is to this idea that what can be done as Product Earth and as a space to protect the criminalized individuals. And what I mean by that is for their actions with cannabis. If they choose violence, weapons, money laundering, anything excess beyond those boundaries of the remit of the plant, that's your own responsibility. You've broken those laws, and that's not my fight right now. I don't know if it'll ever be.
Absolutely, yeah. So non-violent crimes associated with cannabis all need to be overturned. People need to be let out of prison. There's no doubt about it. We were talking with Release actually earlier this week, and they're going to send over some flyers. They can't be at the show, which is kind of annoying, but we'll have some flyers for people as well to kind of get support and guidance if they are suffering with kind of legal issues, should we say. Then there is support there for them. Obviously, Guy's going to be there from Seed Our Future. So these are things that we're constantly looking out to bring to the show, and obviously charities as well, and that are helping people. We're trying to cover all aspects, and that, you know, as we grow, we need to do more and more of that, because it's all part of the story, and we don't want to miss anything out. We're a neutral platform. Everyone's got their opinions. Everyone's got an opinion, but what we need to do is, as Product Earth, is to keep our opinions to ourselves. Although, to be honest, I think we kind of just agree with everyone else. We're like, grow your own. This is exactly what everyone should be able to do. Full legalization. And I think when we talk more about medicinal, I think it's almost kind of skewing towards, you know, getting correct dosing and things like that for people with epilepsy or whatever it may be, where it's not as simple as just vape it when you feel like it. Because I think what I'm trying to get to is the world of cannabis becomes very polarized, and it shouldn't. There's lots of gray areas, and lots of people fit into those gray areas. And so trying to pigeonhole individuals is never going to work. There's never going to be a solution there. So we kind of need to find a solution for all. And by having this neutral platform, giving everyone a voice, I think it's something that everyone can take part of, that conversation in itself.
Yeah. Good answer. Good answer. And I think that's the best you can do as a platform. Exactly, is you are creating the space. You are, as it were, Facebook in this thing. You can't determine necessarily who's posting on it, you have certain moderation in terms of conditions and use of service, etc. But I think, yeah, by creating that space for people to amicably, respectfully, not with that homonym attacks, not with people calling each other dicks and all this other crap, like just actually, here's my stance, here's yours. Let's debate and discuss. Let's find that ways that we can fit together, because ultimately my vision may be 30 stops on this track, yours may be 2, but together we have to build this track. And if you want to get to your 2, you have to build the 2 that gets me to my 10. Do you know what I mean? And it's that's what I think trying to get people to recognize is there's been a lot of foundations done, but we've all got ones. Whereas if we could fit it all together, we're nearly to the final station anyway. We just need to get past these next hurdles that are created by these echo chambers.
Totally. And wasting energy by putting other people down doesn't make you any further ahead. It slows you down as well. You know, we are 100%. Better together at the end of the day.
100%. I mean, it's the ideas that need critiquing, not the people in terms of the way that they stand. Yes, certain behaviors and actions, if they are deemed to be criminal, irresponsible, disrespectful, etc., can be addressed, but that should be separate from the idea. Whereas there's too many egos, personalities, and individuals stuck that are marred and so attached to these ideas, rather than it being a fluid conversation and allowing us to move forward. So this is something I'm very much looking forward to. As you mentioned, I think in our conversation before we started recording, the seminar zone is going to be on the floor this year. So a lot more people, I think, will be participating in these conversations.
I think so. And you know what? We've got some absolutely incredible panels lined up, obviously including yourself. So I feel really bad now. You've kind of worried me. So I'm going to say Bolt Face, but I have been calling them Bolt Fast. If I'm saying it wrong, I'm sorry. Bolt Fast is how I've always called them. But they're coming along. They're running this amazing panel. We do have a Labour MP, yourself and Guy Coxall, and there is this fourth person who could be an MP, could be someone from the IEC. But the idea is that you're all kind of in general agreement of what the future of drug reform policy should look like, but the path to it is very different. And I can't wait to see that play out. So that's going to be really interesting. First Wednesdays are now going to be running their own panel as well. They're talking about building brands in the grey market. So that should be pretty cool. Guy's going to be talking about the cases that he's representing this year. He's actually opening up the show on the Friday, so that's going to be great. Women in Cannabis is back. We've got Lumino coming. I don't know if you know Tom Gray, Nikita, and Harry Giuliani and AJ and everyone down there, but they are Europe's leading recruitment agency in the cannabis space. So
I've heard of them, yeah.
Bring your CV. They're going to be doing a talk about a career in cannabis and what roles you can actually have. So really excited to have that. I don't think it's something that happens at these kind of events enough or at all. It's legal. And I tell you what, aside from not really making much money in cannabis, what a great place to work. It's fantastic. You work with really interesting people. So very, very excited about that. And we've even got Grow Lab Organics are going to be at the show. Glow, I believe they've just done the largest ever crowdfunded raise on Cedars for a cannabis company ever. Hugely successful, building this facility in the Isle of Man. And, one of the things that they're doing, people that have been to Product Earth before will be familiar with Sub-Zero, but now it's Hayden who's the person that's doing all the extracts at Grow Lab Organics, and this kind of trend with people moving into the legal market and actually building a career. It's not as easy as people think. I think he's actually going to do a talk about working in these refrigerated rooms and the heavy lifting and the grunt work that has to go into it. But again, just eye-opening, just really hoping to get people aware of these opportunities that are available. Something I'm looking forward to on Friday, I've got Urbanistic coming down, and they're going to be doing a lesson in microscopy.
Nice, that is very good.
And good flower versus bad flower, including the thing that everyone always gets tripped up on, and we've seen this with the Dankoscope when we had Purple Pro there before. You don't know if someone sprayed your flower. You might know it's from your mate Dave, but it may be sprayed. And we have seen people that have been tripped up in the past. So it's great for patients on a prescription to familiarize themselves with their medicine. But if you're using cannabis from the illicit market, just be familiar with it. And this is what it looks like. So you can kind of, a bit of harm reduction there as well, which I think is always really important. So that's going to be fun. And did I say women in cannabis? Women in cannabis. Juliana Fahy Shark runs it for us. Looking forward to having that run. It's always, as you know, wall to wall. Everyone loves that event. It's just fantastic. And then we've got some other bits and pieces. Something that's quite near and dear to my heart, which is the illicit market is driving. See, I don't know about you, Simpa. You might like high THC products, but if you're talking about something like 28%, 30%, I don't need that in my life. I really don't.
You
18%, like a
mm.
18 to 22%, that's just right for me. But because the illicit market is driving the appetite towards high THC points, because that's the easiest thing to talk about, we're starting to dilute other cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids. But as we know, the entourage effect, that does remove a lot of the therapeutic benefits of cannabis. So really interested for Kyle to talk about that. It's going to be awesome.
Will they be covering sort of genetic bottlenecks? I think that's a conversation that needs to happen at this show, because by next year we're going to be in a far worse position. The
Absolutely.
hype market has led to a lock of everybody crossing everything, but it's, if you were to map it, we're going from a large gene pool into an ever thinning gene pool, and the terpene profiles, which seem to be the modulators to the psychoactive experience. THC will give you a THC high, but it's the minor cannabinoids and terpenes, and it's seeming through the most recent sort of science, it's the proportional ratios between these things that give you a reasonable determination per an individual as to their response to it. So I think that needs raising upon it. I think the other talks are truly brilliant, as always, diversifying it. I think, again, I'm going to pick you up on the language just because I'm a dick, you know me.
Please do.
I'm frustrated with the word legal because it's incorrect. I had this out with Robert Jappy in Brighton, in that all cannabis right now is legal and it can't be criminalized. We are criminalized if we possess it, trade it, cultivate it, without express permission from the Home Office, without like authorization, exemption, or license.
What's the right language then? Because I don't disagree, but
lawful. It's the lawful industry, because it's saying that the legal cannabis industry then creates a false binary stating that there is an illegal cannabis industry. And it can't be, because cannabis isn't a thing that's criminalized. So you either get into really big sentences and abstract paragraphs discussing the nuance of that, or you can just fall into saying lawful, because then lawful is a spectrum. Legal pertains to a law. So you would say that it's illegal to rape, for example, because there is no lawful space in which you could commit that crime. Whereas because cannabis, if you have a license or permission, to say a cop, for example, has authorization to possess cannabis. If he takes it off you, his mate isn't going to nick him for holding that cannabis, because he's a cop. He has authorization in that moment to hold it for you. So there's, because of all these different things, the closest thing to think of it is like weapons. A knife, a kitchen knife, is a utensil at home. You can cut up your meat, make your sandwiches, whatever. You tuck that in your waistband, you go outside. That's not an illegal knife. The knife hasn't done jack shit. You have unlawfully possessed that knife in a situation or circumstance you can't lawfully account for. Whereas if you then put that in a box and left to work and got stopped, and you're a chef, you're taking your tools to work. You have a justifiable, lawful reason as to why you can do that. This is why it's the legalese thing, and we've got stuck in sound bites, and this is why then legalization becomes problematic, because legalization means to legalize something that previously was illegal. And none of this has been illegal. So it all gets a bit. This is what I'm saying. So it's difficult. They really do.
I know how you love to split hairs, but words do matter. So I will try and adopt that, as well as all the other words and wording.
You have been very good to me, bless. There's a few things we still have our issues with. That's me and everybody else, and I'm learning as I'm going ever closer to this autism diagnosis. That there's clearly something as to why I'm so pedantic and fastidious about the language in this space.
Wouldn't it be boring if we were all the same?
Oh God, yeah, it'd be terrible. What the fuck would I have done for the past 10 years? Like, seriously. But no, again, and this is again why the space is so important, to have these conversations, because I'm not necessarily attacking anybody for it. As I spoke to you in the preamble of, I'm working and I've wrote this new piece for Weed World, titled like Neo Legalization. And I'm trying to create language to separate the people in us that we can feel, that are lying to us, manipulating to us. I mean, there's people with money and people with influence, even at your level and beyond, that are obviously genuine individuals for the cause. But there are certain vested interests that move into the space, and all of a sudden, a door slams in our faces. The whole movement then has to merge around this obstacle that has been created within our own ranks. And I think if we can point that language out without attacking each other and having like a red scare like they did in the States during the fucking Cold War, we can have this. And if we have this language, we can talk to each other about it and ascertain each other's intention, and to go, well, are you happy to make your...
I hope you're going to pick up one of our t-shirts at the show. We're doing a collab with THTC. Little farmers, not big pharma. It's got you written all over
100%. Gav, you're out there. I want one. I need one. Need one. I think this is a THTC actually. A print. Done for Freedom Seeds. It's fuck them and their law. Yeah, bollocks. Exactly. See, always repping Gav. So again, versatility of the material. You know, if it was cotton, I'd have gone through it already.
There you go.
Or just cheap cotton, rather, to clarify that, because the 100% organic cotton and even the cannabis ones, or sorry, hemp ones. Sorry, I'm getting
blends. Yes.
Yes. Again, me and the language. But anyway, we go way off point here. I'm looking at my notes to see what. I told you it was going to be a fun episode, didn't
I?
Yeah. For people that are going to ask, because they're probably already asking you, and you can tell the people now. Are there any exhibitors spaces left? Are there any glamping spaces left, or are there any RV spaces left?
RV has sold out, and there's not a lot I can do about that. So sorry. Glamping, yes, although they will shut, because we're working with a third party to put on like a true luxury experience. They will close it off before the show. So go and get your glamping on right now. That's important. And exhibitor space, yeah, actually we do have some exhibitor space in the main hall. Urban Zone sold out, After Dark sold out. I mean, we've got 148 exhibitors already. It's the biggest we've ever done, which is really exciting. Loads of new brands as well. Blazy Susan are kicking ass this year. They're doing a rolling, so we're bringing back the High Roller World Cup with Blazy Susan. So you'll come to their stand and you get to roll the fastest joint you can at Product Earth. So that'll be really fun. They're sponsoring this DJ competition we've got going on right now. By the way, one of the entries, I think someone's sampled you.
Me?
Yeah. I think someone sampled you. I'll dig it out and share it with you, because we're doing all the judging right now. But our creative guy, he's just like, I'm sure that's Simpa. I'm like, send it on. So yeah.
No way. That I've really made it. If someone is literally sampling something I've said, then fuck me. I have made it. Wow.
And then there's, I mean, like I said, we've got new brands coming along. It's going to be exciting to see the Dank of England team have got a whole group of people coming down, loads of interesting brands. Doja's going to be there. So we've got quite a few US brands coming over that you just don't see anywhere else. So yeah, it's going to feel like we've moved a good step forwards from last year, and the people we're hosting. And there'll be some brands that aren't there and lots of new ones. So yeah, very excited about that.
I think that's it.
Oh, and Stores and Bickler's sponsoring the consumption zones, so you'll be able to come along and try out the volcanoes. I know you've got one, Simpa. I couldn't live without mine. But yeah, the Stores and Bickle guys, so they'll be there helping people understand how to use that properly. And then Clark French obviously is heavily involved with them and the UPA, so Clark's going to be there with his team looking after all of the patients. It's quite difficult, from my point of privilege, to help patients, because having not walked a day in their shoes, I can't second guess what their needs are. So actually working directly with a patient advocacy group who slaps me on the wrist and says, Matt, you need to do this. This thing's not as important. And guiding me just means that the patient experience is going to be far, far better this year as well. So they're patients with blue badges come straight in through the main gate. They're the only ones that come through the main gate. They go right up into the disabled parking, which is next to the disabled friendly camping, which have their own facilities. So everything's just there, much, much easier for them. People want us to put mats on the grass. it's just not possible. I really want to do it, but what we've done is instead we've kind of organised after dark around the big concrete paths. So if you are on wheels, you can just go onto the grass a little bit without it just being a headache for you. So yeah, I every year we try and do better for the patients, and yeah, I think this year will be our best for them as well. A lot of thought goes into it.
Is there? I'm hoping this is something Clark's probably picked up on. I'm sure somebody will probably mention this. If not, I'm going to mention it. Is there a quick exit for people who maybe like to consume with fresh air?
So there is a consumption zone out in the food village, the main part of the still there.
Yeah.
So for the main expo hall, you go into the food village under the tree on the grass with nice picnic benches. That is one of the consumption zones. Absolutely fine. Obviously, if we do have consumption zones, we ask that people are respectful and don't combust near them. Okay. I think that's probably as close as I can get without getting myself in trouble.
I hear you, Matt. I hear you, and I'm sure my astute audience with their wonderful brains understand. No, perfect. Again, and it's catering to all needs, and there are certain limitations that are always going to be placed upon yourself as CEO and as an organization and as an entity. But as you've probably learned with your years at Facebook, certain talents and skills of how to find that line, sometimes lift up that line, move it a little bit further away and then place it down again. So
yeah, and it's all about using the right language. We choose our words very carefully, and so the universal rule, Product Earth, and just for the cannabis industry, is don't be a dick. And I think if you live by that, then things will tend to go fairly well. Don't be a dick.
Basically, yeah. And I think, again, it's something that Product Earth has done really well over the years, is it creates a space for people to, I was going to say self-critique. That's maybe not what I was thinking, to evolve and grow over a weekend in a space filled with their peers. So rather than having a certain perspective of what the limited version of the cannabis culture can be, they get to see the breadth of it and to live it out. And I think, yeah, a lot of people go in as not necessarily a novice smoker or consumer or advocate, etc. But yeah, then as they come out of it, a better experience, having them eyes opened to how wide the space truly is. And I think that's something that you guys have fundamentally always embodied. So I'm quite eager to see how it manifests this year.
Me too.
Exciting times.
You can plan so much, but there is the natural juju of Product Earth, and amazing things can happen. And it's often the things you weren't expecting to happen. So yeah, it's always the unexpected that I look forward to.
Excellent. So tell me about After Dark. What we've got going down this year? Because obviously I've seen a few different plans. I'm not sure what was finalized at this hour.
We have changed it up.
Glad I didn't say it then.
So, you know what? No. So what you'll have seen will have been the early kind of footsteps into this. So what we've realised, and thanks to the feedback of everyone that kind of filled in our poll after the show, the music that we put on last year in After Dark actually was one of the least favourite parts of the show. Who would have thought? And I don't think it's anything to do with the caliber of the music necessarily, but it wasn't in keeping with what Product Earth is all about. You don't need a big main stage. We're not a music festival. If you want to go to a music festival, go to a music festival. If you want to see something very kind of community orientated, and I'm not talking about the cannabis community, because Simpa, I have my own issues with talking about the cannabis community, because I believe there's actually multiple cohorts and they don't all necessarily represent one another. But our community, agreed, they want something different. So the Shisha Lounge remains, because, come on, that was heaving last year.
Yeah, good spot.
Really popular, really popular. Did I get to sit down once in it? No, I will this year. So that's happening. Consumption tent with Stores and Bickle. We've got a big music tent. So in here, this is sponsored by Blazy. Each night we start with a live act, and then it goes into the winners of the DJ competition. Now, on Friday night, we have an awesome reggae band coming over from Birmingham, 8-piece, big instruments, all of the good stuff that you want for music, like a proper experience. That's happening. Then we go on into the DJs, and there'll be 2 DJs each night. And we're going to curate it in a way where the music will build. And so, yeah, it's going to be funky, hip hoppy, moving into the world of absolutely banging drum and bass. Everyone loves drum and bass. I hear you. I just can't have it only being drum and bass. That's not what people want. We want to represent everyone.
You're experienced now as well, so you want to build them through it. So you are curating a space that you're creating that opportunity for people to come together to move through it. I think that is it harks back to kind of like the free parties and the free festivals of my youth. And there's something to that. Again, that's where I got first introduced, I suppose, to the true diversity of let's call it loosely drug culture for now.
Sure.
You know, and
well,
so
we've got on the Saturday night. I'm very excited about this because the whole reason it's come about is because of cannabis. Shabba, you're not as old as me, Simpa. So here we go.
I was part of like second wave, third wave, whatever we call it these days. There's been so many waves now. I don't even know if there are waves anymore.
But yeah, he was such a big deal when I was young. I loved him, and obviously he's still a big deal now. I'm just old and boring and don't go out so much. But he lost his driving license. It was because he had cannabinoids in his system. That's why he couldn't get it back. So I actually worked with him and Tim Henley, and we managed to show him the way onto a prescription. He got his prescription, got his license back, and he's like, look, if there's ever anything I can do for you. And I think before he even finished the sentence, I was like, come play at Product Earth. So he's coming along with his whole crew of higher level MCs, and they're doing like an MC collective. So again, it's not what you get at a music festival. It's more of an experience, and you're going to have them passing mics around and doing all that cool stuff. So that's really exciting. So that's the music side. Then we've got a gaming tent. And as you know, Simpa, I want you to hash out a beef with somebody on Street Fighter. I think people would pay good money just to see that alone. It would be amazing. And I will take you on if no one else will. I haven't played Street Fighter in a while, but I used to
played in a very, very long time. So yeah, could be interesting. No practicing.
No. And then like Mario Kart, we got the world's largest Pac-Man and basketball.
I'll tell you what, if you want me to take somebody on, I have logged tens of thousands of hours on Mario Kart 64. I know every shortcut in and out. I've got a 6-second Wario lap.
Like this is big talk. This is big talk.
I'm down. Anybody, somebody, come on! You're a product.
Yeah,
that's it. I was going to say, there's your thing, right? Because we round here, this was like quintessential early days to me. In my first flat back in the day, we had an N64 with 4 controls, and some days there'd be 10 people just vying for that 4th control. As soon as you drop off, you lost your out, and people just queuing up. Do you know what I mean? People come around for like 10 minutes to go grab some.
Golden for me.
Good, yeah.
That was the one.
Man.
So gaming, massive. Like that is a huge investment. I think it's going to be epic. Like the guys that are delivering everything, really professional. Everything's top notch. So very excited about that. Comedy this year. Fancy a laugh? We've got a comedy tent. And we'll also be peppering in some documentaries. Quite a few people in the industry are working on documentaries. So we want to just showcase some of the work that's going on. So that will be really nice. Ridiculous amounts of food. We've added even more. I don't think we even needed to add more, but Neil's gone crazy with it. So I'm letting him run. So more food than ever before, more choices than ever before. Yes, there will be cheaper options. There will also be the more luxurious options. We do want to cater for absolutely everybody. Am I missing anything else from After Dark? I think that might be it. And then obviously in the morning, in the tents, which are the shisha tent and the additional shisha tent, that's where you'll be able to do these kind of morning experiences where you can do sound baths and you can do mushroom oil breath work and you can do cannabis yoga if you have a prescription. I'm not the police, I don't check. All of that kind of stuff. So you can literally wake up and just have the experience from like 8 o'clock in the morning all the way through. Loud music goes down at about 11:30, but all the food's going to be open till 2. We are cutting off alcohol early this year. Just honestly, as a bar owner, no good happens selling alcohol after midnight. Nothing good happens. So if people want to have a drink later, fair play, go to your tents, do whatever you want to do. But I think let's kind of keep it product earthy. Let's keep it together and not be sloppy. I'm probably one of the sloppy people, to be honest. So stop me being sloppy.
Well, yeah, you've got to lay down the rules for yourself so much as anybody else.
Too right,
Um,
too right.
no, I think that it's going to give people the extra space because yeah, I think last year it's an impressive setup with that multi-point. I don't know what you'd call it, the multi-pointed tent. It's a nice thing to observe in different states of mind, shall we say? But the sound and the light is quite intimidating for when it's you go from kind of silence and people chatting to you couldn't quite sit just within the music. And I think that was what kind of put a lot of people off. I think you did movies. Was it movies you did last year that were quite
Yeah, on the
popular?
Sunday we did. Yeah, on the Sunday we did, and I think people really enjoyed that. But we're closed on Sunday night this year, because a lot of people leave anyway, and we just kind of got feedback saying, "Oh, can you just end it on Sunday after the show?" So that, I mean, that's a bit of a change this year, but the numbers dwindle on Sunday evenings anyway. People just want to hang out and then go to bed, like go home, to be honest. So that's what we're doing this year.
So
Just
can people still camp till Monday?
So technically, no. Technically, your last night, the camping nights where you turn up on Thursday night, then you've got Friday night, Saturday night, and once the show's finished on Sunday, off you go.
Okay.
But if anyone's stuck, let me know.
Mm. Yeah, no, just that's the first I'd kind of heard of it, so I just wanted to make sure that obviously, yeah, people are aware of it, so you don't end up with an influx of people going back and being like, "What's happened?"
Yeah,
So I
it's
think
all on the event, right? It says it finishes at 6 and everything like that on Sunday, so hopefully people
I'm
aren't.
not going to pass judgment on the caliber of individuals that may be attending your event, Matthew, but how many of them are going to read the fine print? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. With
How many of them?
love and respect.
I love it. I love dealing with all the ticket requests. It keeps you grounded and connected with everyone that's coming to the show. And it's like, I've walked a number of people through on the phone, walking through like the ticket buying process and stuff like that. I love it. It's just it's a bit of a break from Excel spreadsheets and boring stuff like that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's down in the trenches, really putting the work in.
Too right.
I like it. So we've covered quite a bit of the show. I suppose I can ask you some personal questions now.
Here we go.
Ooh.
Here we go.
I don't know, for some reason I usually write my questions in order, and my third question would have been a terrible question, I think, to ask you at the start of this. Um, do you think a hyper focus on, I've air quoted, the industry is distracting from the fight to actually end prohibition?
No, this goes back to my point about polarization. I think if no one thing is stopping something else from happening, just because one thing's happening, there's lots of people working in lots of different ways. I imagine people can feel that that's the case. I think, even using CanCard as an example, right? So CanCard works phenomenally well for a lot of people. But when they had this partnership with Grow Lab Organics, which is a match made in heaven, to be honest, having worked closely with both of them, I can certainly vouch for that. People are saying, "Oh, hang on a minute, does this mean you don't support Grow Your Own?" No, it's not the case at all. Of course, they support Grow Your Own. They support lots of different things, but that's kind of the mentality. It can be like, well, if you're doing that, that means you don't like this anymore, and that's just not the case. So it feels like quite a pertinent example, which represents quite a lot of how people feel within the industry. But we do need to build an industry, and I don't think we can expect things to change and for the reins to be handed over to us unless there is a level of comfort from the decision makers that they realize that things are going to be handled in a responsible manner. Because there are good players and bad players in every industry, and the bad guys are really bad and they put people in harm's way. And I think we need to make sure that they aren't the people that are benefiting from this.
100% agree. I mean, you can't. The reason I said this would be quite terrible is it was kind of a trap. Well, not a trap. I just wanted to be a bit controversial. So my second question to this would then be: do you think social media has created a false binary when discussing controversial topics?
Yes, 100%.
So
Yeah,
that's
absolutely. It's designed to do that.
so
Yes.
yeah.
There are things that I can't say, obviously, my time at Meta, but you can see it yourself, right? If you, I don't know, right, I went out and played a round of golf, first time in years and years and years, a couple of weeks ago, and so I just clicked on a golfing video. Now my feed is just golf, 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 golf. Now, if you take that into something which is going to be more serious, God, do I go deep and talk about transsexuality and things like that? Yeah, fuck it, why not? If you're having a topic about transsexuals or LGBTQ plus, and you listen to one piece of content which skews one way, then you're going to be served more and more of that content, which is going to compound your opinion. You're not going to hear the other side of the argument, and that's the problem with social media, because someone like me, I actually like hearing both sides of the argument, so I can make my own mind up. I feel like I'm quite difficult to pigeonhole, left, right, up, down. That's just not me. I have views all over the place. But the way you get people to engage with your content, which can then be monetized, is to give them more of what they have already shown a signal of intent towards. So yes, that is a problem with social media.
Yeah, okay. No, I was quite proud of myself when I constructed that. I was like, I'm going to use a thing to get them to go one way, and I'm like, because
I hope I've answered it properly.
No, you did it. You did it. It opens up this larger conversation, because I've been that person. I was that for quite a long time, and it took me a lot to understand. And part of that is stepping away from social media. Is really now it's an out-facing thing as much as humanly possible. I do something, I need to put it out there. I did it a share. And sorry to anybody, I very rarely check messages or respond to stuff anymore, because I just don't have the capacity for it. My brain doesn't prioritize things in a way. So I could have a message from, again, no offense to anybody, somebody that I've never spoken to that's asking something that they could Google and get the answer to on the first page. It's not controversial, contentious. It doesn't require much, but they obviously want my time to respond to it. Then I look at that and go, well, I've got a message from a family member. I've got this, and it builds. And as soon as I lost a week at the start of the year, my phone's insane. It's traumatizing to deal with, and it
really is, and that is a concern. And everyone's looking at their screens constantly, and even when you're going out to an event, you're behind a screen, so
you're watching it through somebody else's phone in the row, even if you don't want to record it.
Spoiler alert, like whenever someone's at a concert and takes a video, it looks shit. Stop doing it. No one cares. It's just like, it's bad content. But yeah, we get it. You went to some Beyonce festival or concert or whatever. Great. But don't show me a joggy phone video of it. It's nonsense.
People are trying now. So it's evolved, I suppose, from your early days of Facebook Pride with being Meta. Obviously, it had its control and involvement in Instagram, which I would personally argue was detrimental from day one. As soon as it lost the chronology, it was fucked, because it was beautiful back then. We knew how to work it. We posted this time on this day, we get this reach. We use these hashtags, we get this. We built our audiences, and I connected with like 5 different Simpas around the world just because I was trying to get Simpa, the Simpa on Instagram.
But interestingly, that's how it dies, right? Because everyone's interested in those times, and so it's a supply and demand situation.
Yeah.
And so if everyone's trying to do things at certain times, then there's too much noise. And this is, I mean, back in the day, you used to get about 16% organic reach, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're reducing organic reach to sell more ads." No, they're not. There's just more people on it. There's more connections. There's more things to show you, and the day is finite. It's a zero-sum game at the end of the day, and so that's why you get less reach from your posts nowadays. It's just because you've probably made friends on Facebook today. You've probably connected with a new business today. So that might be a handful more things that can be going into your feed. And that's just from one day. You extrapolate that over years, of course, organic reach is going to go down. Google was completely free from the start. That's how they built it. So I'm quite pragmatic about that, to be honest. But my top tip for social media is, when you see something you're not interested in, just click on it and say, see less of this, not interested, see less of this, not interested.
Curate it more.
You can change the way your feed looks quite quickly, which I've started doing quite a lot now.
Yeah, I think it's something I need to do, because unfortunately a lot of the pages that I followed like 10 years ago, when I 2008, I think, was when I first went on Facebook. And a lot of those pages, they built big numbers early, because again, you were saying it was the economy of it. There was more people, less pages. Now everyone's a page and a brand. But people then started selling these pages. And so now with Meta's started, you can have group chat conversations in groups. And so I'm getting group requests from like Christian prayer group, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I click into it and I go back and it's been sold like 3 times, and it may have started as a not safe for work page or something, and then gone to this and this and this, and it's like a Christian prayer group. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And
but that's why it's all about the relevance, right? And it's when people say, I want to build a fan base. Why? If you want to build a fan base, just post pictures of cats. You'll get lots of fans. If you're trying to build a business and you're selling car parts, having pictures of cats isn't going to help you. It's much better to have a smaller audience that's relevant to you.
I pitch you cats and car parts, junkyard cats.
That's a business idea. Let's leave this podcast.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's do it. Let's right. But yeah, it's relevancy to it. I think this is something that people conflate in the grey market area here in the UK, is that the numbers equal relevancy, equal meaning, equal value. And
it's like the influencers, right? They're like, oh, I've got 1 million followers. Great. How many people does your post actually reach? Oh, well, 10,000. Okay. And how many people buy a product because you've said it's great? Oh, 2. Right. So really, I'm paying you to sell 2 products for me. That's your worth to me. Obviously, there's more sophisticated ways with marketing funnels, and you've got upper funnel, but that remains the case, because if I want to go and have 1 million people follow me, which quite frankly, I can't think of anything more terrifying, but you just go to a click file and you just say, add this to me, and over the course of a week, you will build 1 million followers. It's against policy, but people do it all the time. But what's the point? It's disingenuous.
Exactly, and this is kind of what was, I guess, the hidden question in my original question of the hyper focus element is we're now past the point where I think, because I mean, I started with MySpace. You know, I'm so glad that when the servers got bought by Murdoch and that, they got wiped, because there was some extreme angle pictures of me with some fringes and shit back in the day that I am pretty glad don't exist no more. But as we've watched this evolution of, Bebo, MySpace back in the day, and then Facebook obviously revolutionized it because of its standardization, accessibility, and its lack of attachment to any subculture. That then obviously we had Instagram, Twitter, and all the various things. But now the ubiquity of TikTok has meant that every app looks like fucking TikTok. And to the point we were talking about with the concert people of why they're filming, is they're trying to grab that 5-second thing that they can use on TikTok and be blown up artificially by the algorithm and go viral, to have that ultimate dopamine flood and the illusion that they're an influencer. And we can't all be, we can't all be the main character. We're all the protagonist of our own narratives, but we have to have function and utility within society. We can't all be Mariah Carey, because who the fuck carries Mariah Carey's handbag? Do you know what I mean? We're in a problematic zero-sum game here and I'm not saying that means some people should be below others. I'm not a supremacist. Anybody that knows me knows I'm definitely not. But in society, we can't all want the same thing, as you said with the Instagram thing of creating bottlenecks. We have these problems of everyone goes, if I buy these shoes, get to this brand, follow this, act this. If I do this pose, this face, this thing, and it's just math. And then they get frustrated when it's gone. And by the time they've done the calculation, the sums have changed. And the point I wanted to raise, because I haven't been on here for a month, and it's, of all the things I've seen, it's the thing that still haunts my dreams. NPC TikTok live streams. Have you seen these?
No. I feel like I'm missing out.
It's people, and they're like this. So they act like a Sims character, like an NPC. And so they're slightly moving because of the way the graphics did it. And they read the fucking emojis. And they act out the emoji for hours on end. And they're making thousands of fucking pounds. And like people are emulating it. And it's... We've gone from people just being, oh, you're shitty on online. Back in the early days, it was we mocked each other for being on social media. Then we mocked each other for not being on social media. Now we're all kind of stuck that if you're not on social media, you don't exist, or you live in a subculture that I still haven't got back to. I'm still too attached to the digital realm that I can't see people on the street. Almost, I can't reconnect with the people who are in fucking front of me because I'm busy following a stream of some guy in South Africa or whatever. You know what I mean? And that's not a diss. There's some really good cannabis accounts I follow in South Africa. That's the point of the reference. But it's I need to be able to deal with the person in front of me, to hello, good morning, to be present. And the technology now has meant that people are traveling like Mount Everest. People or Snowdon in this fucking country, and there's hundreds of people queuing to get a fucking selfie at the top of the thing. And it's like, you missed the point. Climbing the mountain was meant to be the thing. Doing it to get the fucking selfie is just so vapid and devoid of, yeah.
Would you not take a photo at the top then?
I'd let somebody else take my photo, but to actually take a selfie, I think is just. I still struggle with again. I did the selfie when I was on a digital camera, and you had to take 50 pictures, plug it in the computer, wait half an hour for the fucking the card reader's not working, plug it back in. Eventually, loads them on the screen. Okay, you click a picture and it crashes, and like fuck's sake, start again. You finally find your picture, then you get it up, and then it's too big. You got to reshape it, put it in a Word, drag it, like a different thing. And again, we mocked each other for it, of the culture. That was emo culture. Do you know what I mean? We took the living piss out of each other and took hellfire for it from everybody. You know, even when I was like a skater in various other aspects of my youth, you know what I mean? There was still a fluidity to it, a humanity to it. Whereas now it feels like there's one experience we're all being driven to. And the more unconscious an individual, the more they're trying to just emulate this one experience. I can't articulate or give you that one person as an example, like a Kardashian or whatever, but it just feels like there's these prototypes, these artificial, archetypal individual personalities that are preset for us, or seemingly preset, or narrowed artificially by social media and other avenues. That means that we're not authentically meeting each other. We're all online talking hours and hours, but not one of us are actually talking in the same way as if we were at a rave and took 2 pills and decided at 2 a.m. to go and fucking get some water and a 2-hour mission. Do you know what I mean? That's connection. Do you know what I mean? Sitting for 9 hours with some girl at the other side of the world going, oh, you're very pretty, and dealing with the camera crashing and the quality going, that's not connection. That's faux connection. It's like porn. It's a simulation of a real experience. And it becomes Plato's allegory of the cave over time that we lose the idea that there's an outside of the cave. And that's what I'm getting very scared of, and why I'm trying to detox, remove myself as much as possible to step back into the real world, because I feel lighter every day from it. Do you know what I mean? Like drifting away from reality because of this faux pseudo connection caused by my social media presence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just love getting outside, just in general in nature. I mean, especially like with mental health issues and stuff like that. When it's really stressful, best way to start the day for me, obviously a cup of nootropic coffee, and then out there for a 7.5K run. Absolutely love it. Nature, you know, cars shouting at me, get out the fucking road. Yeah, okay, mate, great to see you. You know, real world.
yeah. It's because the whole like Apple's new headset and that, and the evolution of Oculus, and obviously metaverse is kind of collapsing. And actually, if you look at some of the statistics that came out, it's slightly embarrassing investment versus outcome. But hey ho, that's Mark's bag, not mine. I worry that we're going to end up simulating reality through artificial through like augmented reality. In the
Yes.
I fear the next evolution is I could be with my ex partner, not as in X the thing, not my ex Y partner Y, and I could then put on the. Told you it was gonna be a funny podcast. I've said that twice now. Yeah, you put on the Oculus thing, and I could then just change their appearance.
Yeah.
That to me is so I could walk down the street. Google's already doing it now. You take a picture with Google, you can erase people. That to me feels wrong.
To quote Jurassic Park, they were worrying too much about they could do something and not enough about whether they should.
100%.
Wisdom in that film.
There really fucking is, man. That's why it stands the test of time. It's
life finds a way.
Yeah, man. Buckets. Yeah, so there's my little rant about social media, and I just given your previous expertise. So actually, given your expertise, if Mark Zuckerberg rang you tomorrow and went, dude, I'll give you 2 billion, 5 billion, name your billion, fix it, what would you do? Don't tell me like I'll change this like the specific, too specific, a bit more grandiose ideas. You're basically giving a G lamp.
I would make it more about the end user. Focus on what the end user actually wants, not what you think the end user wants. That's the key to success in business, is focusing on your customers' needs, not your own ego.
But how do you quantify that, or like make that work in conjunction with certain censorship and certain, because what I'm thinking of is they're getting a lot of what people want is the stuff that people are getting banned for. There's I mean, every now and then, I don't know whether Instagram, somebody just lets their foot off censorship, but my feed page will just fill with, I don't want to say wrong-uns, but yeah, wrong-uns. You know, people on bikes doing things that they shouldn't, people in cars doing things that they shouldn't, and whatever else. And I can understand certain things that if that is then evidence of a crime, but then can you tell if that's made for entertainment purposes, etc. I just, same with drugs and cannabis. You know, the censorship
Well,
that then goes around that.
two different
How do you
things.
quantify those together?
That's two different things, though, isn't it? Because you've got one which is you're talking about misinformation. Are you allowing misinformation to be shared? Yeah,
But do we not have the right to share misinformation? It's satire, not misinformation. Disinformation. So this is where, again, like, it's alleged that Stalin, I think, came up. Was it Stalin? No. I'm trying
Quoting
to pull which.
Stalin.
No, I'm trying to figure out which historical figure it was. I wasn't going to quote him. I'm trying to say who came up with the term disinformation initially. And I think it was a Soviet era thing. I think it may very well have been Stalin, but I cannot pull which Soviet leader out my arse it is. But anyway, my point is that obviously dis versus miss. Miss is obviously allows for insane law, for example, it to be accidental. I could believe something, state something. My belief doesn't make it dis, as it were, but it makes it miss information. But then it's who's the arbiter of the information, because then the Christian belief, for example, I'm not saying that it should be under every tweet or whatever that, or thoughts and prayers, there should be a fact check. God is an arbitrary construct created by man. I'm not saying that should exist, but I always go back to South Park and the manatees. There's an episode of South Park where they're taking the piss out of Family Guy and they have a tank full of all of the concepts that they can write about. And the manatees basically push the balls together, and that's what creates a South Park joke. And what the South Park characters decide to do to sabotage Family Guy is steal one of the balls and say, we're going to censor this concept. And it's all about Muhammad and the depiction of it in the cartoon. It's a banned episodes now, I believe, but still available on physical media. And it's all about censorship. And basically the idea is that if anything is allowed, everything has to be allowed, or nothing is allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Freedom means that the things that offend you, the things that harm you even, the others are free to do. They are not then free of the consequences legally of them doing it. Then in a well-adjusted society, they would have the etiquette and the whereabouts and the respect to not do half of these things. Yeah. But it's creating that system. Whereas if we just label, again, another one of those artificial binaries of going, it's either truth or misinformation or disinformation. It's, I mean, things that I was taught as a kid, dinosaurs have scales. No. Dinosaurs have feathers. Pluto was the 9th planet. No. We have 8 planets in our solar. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, truth is not a fixed. It's fixed in time, is in its position, but it's linear. It evolves It evolves through that linear.
It's really difficult, isn't it? Because I mean, you could argue that if you have a verification and you therefore are a public figure or something like that, then you should be fact checked. You should be fact checked. But then who does the fact checking? Who checks the fact checkers? You know, and you kind of go round and round in circles. You also, what's hatred? Like, what's hate speech? Because you know, I'm not even going to mention these topics because it could just create havoc speaking in a public forum about them. But people have different opinions on things. Mm-hmm. Just because you don't agree with something doesn't mean it's hate speech, as far as I'm concerned. If you're inciting hate, that's hatred, right? Mm-hmm. But making a point isn't hate speech. It's just, this is my opinion on something. And I think things like that should be allowed. Like, that's what freedom of speech is always about. But there are people out there who have ridiculous views, and I just think there's a way of blocking those kind of people away. Yeah, so you see something like all of the different comedy shows. I mean, Ricky Gervais is under attack now, isn't he? So if I found something that Ricky Gervais was doing was offensive, do you know what I would do? I'd just use an old phrase, I'd change the channel. You know, I just wouldn't watch it, and I wouldn't call for him to be fired or anything like that. But by people not listening to him, he will be fired. But if there is a demand and people do want to listen to that content, then they should be allowed to listen to that content, providing it is not inciting hatred or doing anything bad to the world. I think everyone just needs to kind of get along with it a little bit more and get along with one another and hear and be open to different opinions. Everything is so egocentric now me. Listen to what I have to say. If you disagree, then you're shit and you're going to be cancelled. That's the world we're moving into, which I think is dangerous.
Do you think, again, interesting, it's just we're free flowing with this, that blocking, the conceptual idea of individual blocking created this? That if it starts with, I don't agree with this, I don't like these things, I'll leave it. Like back in the day before your comments would be as moderated as they are, most people would just leave a shitty comment and block or whatever and walk away. But then once you curate that, obviously prior to kind of the adpocalypse on YouTube and kind of the evolution of the algorithms on various social media platforms a few years ago, you would end up with that really curated feed as you spoke of previous. But then you create ever more of an echo chamber. And then if somebody disagrees with you, you get in a fight or whatever, and then one of you gets blocked by the mods or whatever, if you're on, say, Reddit or whatever, or the system catches up with you as the new meta system and you get kind of kicked into Facebook jail, as it were. But it's discourse that settles this. Whereas as soon, like people like Tommy Robinson still exists. Do you know what I mean? He's still out there doing whatever the fuck shit he's doing, but we're not paying attention to it. Huh?
I thought he was in prison now.
I saw him on something not that long ago. It might have been an older video, but it looked quite recent, to be fair. But individuals like that and of that caliber, and exactly with the kind of rhetoric and belief that they have, I feel that the best way to challenge that is with better speech. Shit speech needs better speech. But then there becomes a mechanism that's being created. I can't remember. It's I think somebody classified it as a law. There's a term for it. That basically it's a troll tactic of somebody replying to comment A as commenter B in such a way that commenter A will get so self-righteous that commenter C, D, E, and F jump in, and then commenter B walks away. Mm-hmm. So that incitement, and then, you know, like lighting the kindling, that has meant that discourse doesn't really happen because people end up then just attacking each other over various things. Like people then become grammar Nazis and go, well, all that sent and the ad hominem attack each other. They'll go to each other's profiles and go, oh, look at you picked. Like the number of people that have responded to my long paragraphed comments on news articles that have clicked onto my page and go, you're one of them druggies. I said, did you read what I stated? All you've tried to do is go, I think druggie is a derogatory term. I'm going to be derogatory to this individual. Is less articulate and intelligible than that, but you get my point. And I think absolutely. It's these mechanisms. It feels like we're all acting now in the physical space like we're online, and we can literally, I'm blocked. I just ignore you. I'll ghost you. It's like, no, I'm physically in front of you. Talk to me. Acknowledge me. If we've got beef, let's talk it out. Don't block. You know, ignore. Like we have to coexist from all backgrounds and all creeds, and we share the same fucking space. And if you have an idea and your idea is good enough, you should be able to bring it to the public forum. And if the public agree and you gain enough agreement with it, then that should be in some way addressed in a larger conversation amongst the society. But at the minute, it feels like that's not allowed, and because of the fear of those hateful and other rhetorics, that these other things are caught up. So say, for example, us lot trying to have cannabis education groups and awareness and conversations or this podcast, because it's associated to drug dealing and that's associated to violence and that's associated to human trafficking and all this other shit, we get caught out. So we can't have the conversations about educating the consumer, about sharing information about best practice, about how to keep ourselves safe, recognize con men in the community, know what good bud is and what it isn't. Do you know, to be self-sufficient and all these other things, that's getting caught up in that same mechanism, and it just feels like in this kind of space it's hard to get out.
Everyone's been given a soapbox, but not everyone should use it, you know. And we now live in a world where people speak in memes and buzzwords without necessarily kind of understanding what they mean, and they're used in a callous and blunt way, and it loses some of the magic of the spoken English language or languages, you know, whatever it may be. When there's a truly well thought out comment, that is, if you're not attacking somebody, again, it just keeps coming back to this. Like, if you can't have a civil conversation without slagging someone off, then clearly you're not capable of having a civil conversation. I can have a conversation with people that disagree with me constantly, and you hope that either you kind of encourage them into your way of thinking, or maybe you will be open to learning something from their way of thinking. But if you are closed to anything apart from people listening to you, then you're you're not going to get anywhere in life. You're always, every day's a school day. If I'm not learning, then what's the point? Because I am far from perfect,
Yeah.
and hopefully by the time I die, I'll be slightly more closer to perfect.
That's the thing of it. I mean, there's an image that I had in my head since kind of I was a kid of what it is to interact with people, and I always imagined we're all vessels of water, say slightly different colors of food dye water vessels, and every time we meet, what we're trying to do is I'm trying to pour a little bit of me into you and you into me, and the more you get, the more of the mix, and that's people's mixes and levels will all be different and whatever else, but as long as we seek to put as much in, we can find that compassion. I don't need to have lived in sub-Saharan Africa to necessarily understand. Can't truly understand the experience, but I can understand through other degrees of connection with other people in different regions around the world and different experiences, a kind of amalgamate sympathy for that. And so the more that we mix, I think the easier it becomes to go, look, I can't think of your experience, but I know you're a human, and it was tough. It's tough to be conscious and sentient in this reality, and if we can have that base compassion, I can vehemently disagree with somebody, and other than a slight incident that maybe I had at last year's show with a certain doctor, very rarely do I ever allow myself to get frustrated in that situation, because it is just a conversation. You are only exchanging information, and if you believe and have truly fortified your stance and your intellect, and what I mean by that is not by being, standoffish, it's by rigorously testing it at all means, as you said before, listening to all sides of a debate and discussion, researching everything that you can, absorbing everything that you can, because you'll become a better interpreter of the reality before you, and you less get caught up in these pitfalls.
We live in a world where people are consuming so much content. It's like Johnny Five. What was that film with the robot? Input. People are just kind of taking on so much. They're not willing to take time to learn and really kind of digest information. So they'll get a tidbit of information. They'll speak to someone not about who they are, but what you perceive them to be. And so, your authority, fuck you, whatever it may be, rather than actually understanding, like you said, you're another human being, have empathy for them, understand them, because 2 ears, 1 mouth, use them in that ratio. That's how we should all be living, and treat each other's like humans. Stop just spouting meme nonsense. Stop playing the sympathy card and why your life is so more tragic than someone else's. Just everyone just should be helping one another a lot more. God, you're making me sound like a lefty now.
Hey, I'll get you there, Matt. I'll get you there.
God damn it. My wife's parents will be proud.
It's good though, because it's exactly it's that it's a fucked up kind of, can't think of what the word, juxtaposition, in that if we were all a bit nicer, the world we were living in would be a bit nicer, and thus you wouldn't need to be a bit nicer because things would be a bit nicer, in which case if you were a bit nicer, things would get even nicer, and it builds. But we were in a position where we don't hear each other. And I think you articulated wonderfully there about we're constantly ingesting this information, but very little is being processed. There's now, the format of it blows my mind when I sometimes scroll through fucking Instagram, and it's like a guy running a kids game on the bottom, and then it's like a TED talk, but then there's a sound over the top of the TED talk, and it's just like, I mean, I'm neurodivergent, but fuck me, this is a car crash. Like it just, I can see why it's appealing, but why it feels like it's taking from me rather than I'm gaining something from it. I'm having to try to understand rather than it being. For a while, it felt like social media allowed people to curate things into short things. You do snappy little videos on YouTube or whatever, or we had Vines for a while, and people got so fucking creative and then able to encapsulate, like in an art form, a way of conveying complex things in such a short way. But now it's like we feel like we've the end of that. We've lost that creativity because it's not about the process of creating. It's not about climbing Snowdon again. It's taking the selfie on top of it, and it's how long before they just put an elevator car up to Snowdon in the top, and you just ride it all the way to the top, because that's what they're gonna. That's what the tourists want, and people forget that that's why you climb.
and everyone will tell you climbed it anyway. And it's just like, but I mean, I have bad things happen every single day, hugely stressful things. I'm responsible for a lot of people and all the rest of it. Not once where something bad's happened and I thought I'm going to sleep on this and digest it and respond in the morning. Has that been the wrong decision? Not once. But when you make a knee-jerk reaction in the heat of the moment where emotions are involved, normally it's the wrong thing to do. So people do need to take more time. It's almost like consume less, focus more, consume less, be your kind of, be who you are, be true to yourself, but be true to other people as well, and respect them for who they want to be and their opinions, because ultimately that's going to influence you as well. And hang around with good people. People are dicks, don't hang around with them, you know. Toxic people are toxic people are toxic people, and they just don't get any time in my life, that's for sure.
100%. Hang around people that bring you up, not bring you down, as they say.
Indeedy doody.
No, that's good. I like it. I think we've
got deep on this one, haven't we, Simpa?
Yeah, I think we've covered some good topics here. I'm just looking around. My notes are very scattered for today's episode because it's the first one I've done in about a month.
Plus LSD, right?
Yeah, that's the LSD might have maybe played a small part in it, but it does look pretty. Like it's sectioned off in certain ways. There's some notes, like it says, "Ask Matt to introduce himself." I did. You know, I said you were previously in episode 87. It's not been relevant, but it's there in case I wanted to know about it.
Nice, God.
So yeah, I am prepared. But yeah, I think we've covered some grand topics. I think I'd like to throw a couple more quick fireys at you, just while I've got you. So hypothetical. Let's just call it the end of cannabis prohibition rather than get caught up in the terms for it. Cannabis prohibition ends in 2030. 10th year of Product Earth. You're able to do everything that it is you dream. It's a farmer's market, it's whatever else. Does focus then shift to other natural, currently criminalized entheogenic substances? And that I'm thinking, obviously, psychotropic mushrooms.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. But let's be realistic. That will follow suit very, very quickly after cannabis, if not before. Like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. There's no stigma associated with it. There's no kind of racism. Well, there is, but it's the other way. You know, it's because white people that take mushrooms, so it can't be so bad. So there is racism there, but that in this instance, it will play in favor of getting that fully legalized. But beyond that, I guess the bigger picture is that we're a celebration of a culture. Just because something's illegal, that's not why we're doing this. It's a cultural celebration of marginalized communities. And giving people a voice. So things that are good for the planet and everyone that inhabits it, that's what Product Earth's all about. Do you know a trend that I'm picking up? Obviously, this was supposed to be a quick fire round, but this is just something that plays in my mind.
Take your time, it's good.
It might be because I am now of the ripe old age of 42 and maybe my kind of decisions in life are changing. But I feel that combined with this emerging, quickly growing wellness industry, movement, whatever we want to call it, I feel that a lot of my friends and potentially others are not trying, because this used to be me, put my body through as much as I can physically handle. And that was celebrated. Fucking hell, that guy's still standing. He's been up for 48 hours. That used to be me. Now I'm taking as many different lotions and potions and things like that to get the best version out of myself every single day. I wonder if that's what we get. Are we going to move towards a limitless world where we are literally getting the best version of ourselves out? Is that what the focus is going to be? Really hope it is.
Wait, there is.
Imagine that coming together and that you're like, look at us, we're in this area, these are the people that are striving for the best they could possibly be. That would be the most uplifting environment to be in.
Again, as long as we can, I guess, avoid a certain classism that comes with it. I'm thinking of a certain billionaire that recently obviously announced that he's been using his 18-year-old's plasma and injecting that, and his mission is to try and get back to 18, and he's investing hundreds of millions in it. It's
Do people want to be 18 again? I'd hate to be 18.
I don't know, like that guy. This is what scares me about having access to that much money. Like he's having a midlife crisis, and if you know everyone has parity, or not necessarily forced parity, that's not what I'm saying. But back in the day, you know, worst somebody got was a Porsche. You know, they'd crash it in the wet. They'd be like, "All right, fuck this. I'll come back to it. I'll get the station wagon. Sorry, love." And they'll go through it. Whereas this dude is literally like, "Nah," and he's going to create an industry, and it's giving me big Theranos vibes. Do you remember Theranos?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's. So I worry about. I agree that we should live to our best, but there needs to be a humility about our mortality. We are built to die. You know what I mean? From the moment we are born, we start to oxidize to the air around us that kills us, let alone all the bajillion things.
We're not built to die. We're built to live.
Well,
But
yeah,
the
yeah,
moment we're
but
born, we start to die. So
yeah,
that's the difference. So what I'm talking about is living your best life.
mm-hmm.
Yes, you're going to
Yeah,
die.
yeah, agreed. But what
So
I'm saying
is
is with that understanding that yeah, we can through diet and etc. extend human life, but there's again my worry is I'm just referencing pop culture because it's the best thing I've got in my brain is the way it works. Is that Elysium? Did you see Elysium? Matt Damon,
Oh, do you know what I think I have? I think I have.
and they have
It's
that giant like spaceship thing in the sky and it rotates and they created like an Eden and all the rich people get to go take off Earth and Earth collapses. And yeah, it's again, it's just I thought there's some poignancy here, given I don't want to sort of dob you in for your education, Matt, but uh,
I was expecting.
there's
I
this.
have no education. I've got an A level in art.
Oh, that's good to know. That works well. You should have that on your fucking LinkedIn underneath.
I got
No,
expelled for
that'll get you in
inciting
trouble.
a riot and drug dealing. But yeah, sure.
That okay? That gives you big. All right, you've just gone up two boxes in my estimation there, brother. That's no, that's good. But what I'm meaning is just in terms of sort of
I hear
our
you.
upbringings, and I think it's good to again we're showing perfectly in this conversation how different backgrounds, different worldviews. For all we agree on a lot of things, obviously, me and legalization. I mean, but we'll keep talking that one out. But the sentiment, the conceptual idea beyond what the linguistics are trying to describe, that thing we agree on, and most of us agree on that thing. It's just that language and everything else gets kind of in the way of it. But yeah, I think that again, my worry is that yes, the technology should work and there should be innovation in that drive. But if it's only to keep 2,300 billionaires alive, should that shit really be going? And I don't want to hear like trickle down fucking economics of healthcare because at the minute we're
No.
seeing the collapse of the NHS. And my fear is part of that is I call it the medicinal cannabis industrial complex, and it whether it knows it is or it's not, it's playing a role in the downfall of the NHS until we can work out some sort of system there that allows for, like I said, GPs prescribing, which is obviously a campaign going off. But
Yep.
yeah, my stance is always I'm going to stand at the lowest because that's where I feel most comfortable for all. Well, not most comfortable. It's where I grew up. It's what I know. It's my lived experience. And so I always want to be there in these conversations to try and go, yeah, it's all well and good, guys, but these people in prison, these people poor, these people homeless, these people struggling. You know, it's like, and so
I
yeah.
think that the challenge is simple that in any socioeconomic class, you've got the good and the bad. You know, you've got people in the upper echelons that are building big companies, providing people with employment, millions and millions of jobs. They're providing wealth for them and all the rest of it. You've got others that are sitting around playing the stock market, squashing businesses. I mean, do you hear what Tesla did? They again, it's a decision that Elon's made. He just reduced the price of Teslas something like 20, 30 grand. But the knock-on effect that has had with the local second-hand car market means that all the stock that they had is now worthless and they've lost all of that money. Those kind of decisions, I hate that kind of stuff, right? Because you're not thinking about the ripple effect that you're creating. But I don't think all billionaires are evil. I think some of them work very, very hard. I don't know any, but they do work hard and they do create wealth. There's definitely good people. There's a lot of bad people. And likewise, at the lower end of the scale, you've got people that are working hard, multiple jobs, sometimes a single parent, just to create the best life they can for their family. You've also got people that will sit there, throw mud at people, can't be bothered to do anything, and whatever, and just moan about it. It's very difficult to use any scale of anything to truly measure the individuals within it because we are all individuals. I don't have the answer. I thought it looked like I was building to a really amazing answer then, but I don't have an answer, and it is just very, very complicated. But I think it's more about changing people's mindsets, getting people to work together, like we always talk about. It's these simple things that we can all be doing, being kind to one another. Again, that's a meme now, right? Everyone shouts "be kind," and then they slag off the next person. They slag off the next person. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's become a
what you say, so that's, I tell you what, it's the say-do gap. That's what I think that was something that Sheryl Sandberg, there you go, I do know a billionaire. So Sheryl Sandberg was, when I was at Facebook, she says the say-do gap, and you want that gap to be as small as physically possible. So what you're saying and what you're doing needs to be the same thing. If there's a gap, that is where problems occur. So yeah, I think that's the way I try to live my life as much as physically possible. But yeah, it's not an easy solution, that's for sure. But yeah, I hope the world can get better. It feels like at the moment it's getting a lot worse daily.
I kind of hope we're witnessing the ripples of something settling rather than something rising, because it's been a tough century so far for, I think, most people. Obviously, there's a certain handful of individuals that have profited most, maybe not necessarily through their own actions or intentions. I agree. And I think you did make a really elegant point there, and a point that is important. It's the same one we made before of, I can hate a billionaire, as in the conceptual idea of a billionaire, and think that they should be taxed out of existence, that, your 1,000,000,000 is too much. You've got your limit. Is your 999? Go live your life. But that's different than hating a person, do you know what I mean, and hating on them for it. Again, it's debate their concepts, their ideas. And yeah, I would think in a more just society there would be better taxation systems that would still allow for incentivization of innovation, but allow for the help of the bottom, not for those mudslingers as you described, but for the people who are working those two jobs, raising those kids, and are still not just in poverty but in destitution. I mean, I live in one of the most impoverished areas of Northern Europe, in Durham, and the street I back onto is one of the worst. And I'm watching this new grow sites around us, new shops, a new fucking 500 housing estate that's going to be £250,000, £300,000 houses, right next to what we colloquially, joyfully call the ghetto. Do you know what I mean? We have cameras on poles and cages and spikes, because we used to burn the cameras. I don't know, we personally, but the residents, the cameras would get burnt out. And it said, when I police officer, Mr. Judge, man, don't take yeah. I say we as in the grand we of the residents of this area.
Entertainment purposes only.
As are all of them, folks. As are all of them. But yeah, so it gives you the kind of level of it, but they're bringing this affluence, and they're then going to over police and restrict it without ever addressing the socioeconomic issues, which again are so diverse and multifaceted that they're going to require a lot more solutions and input. But it just feels, again, because of more people live with that online social media mindset in the real world, that we're not paying attention to it. It's like we're not paying attention to it. It's like we can't. It's like it doesn't matter. I'm getting likes on this thing. All my favorite YouTubers are streaming for 6 hours. I'm going to sit and watch that. And I say this as someone who produces long format content. God bless you all for doing it in one fucking go. But go read a book. Go do other things. Like, I love you. Like, subscribe, all the good things. But there's more to life than just absorbing content. You know what I mean? And I don't want to ever quote Jordan Peterson, because the guy's a prick as far as my estimation is of it. But his whole thing of clean your room, like, start at home as you're doing now with the body. That's your first home. Then your environment, that's your bedroom, your studio space, your lounge, your house, your residence. And then from that, you can start to clean up the world. But if you go out there with that kind of, same as like the social justice warrior, keyboard warrior mentality, but in the real world, there's a reason you're getting hate for that. There's a reason you're getting backlash. You're not authentic. You're not real. You're rubbing people up the wrong way. And I think this is why a lot of people are getting diagnosed as neurodivergent, because something that's bringing out of us all that we're all a little bit on the spectrum. I think we all are personally anyway. But it's heightened.
We are all on it.
Yeah, well, yeah, literally, yeah. So we're heightening all of these traits, and so we can just sense all this in authenticity, and so we just can't. So you're either so absorbed in that bubble, and it's so egoic, and nothing outside of it exists, and you just flow through life, or the bubble pops, and it's hard to interact. Like I said, I don't know how to interact with social media anymore because I'm not trying to be funny. I don't want to try. I want to just interact with it, but I can't because there's so many other variables. There's so much censorship and everything else that I'm just like, there's no point. I'm not going to connect with somebody. All I'm going to do is, every time I now comment on something, I just create a hate thread. I'll say something that I think is quite concise. Here's a nice bullet point, and it just gets. And I just watch people rather than eloquently discuss the thing in response to the thing I've commented on. They just hate on each other. It does that ABC thing I was telling you about before.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to reinstall decent discourse amongst people. I mean, especially in this space, like you were saying, I'm hoping that Product Earth again allows for this with as it does every year, for people to camp together from different backgrounds, from different spaces, to share a drink together, to dance.
Although Simpa, we have been told you have to be 6 meters, tents need to be 6 meters apart.
Really?
So yeah. We've got a new event manager, so she's buttoning down a little bit, but yeah.
So,
exactly.
so what I'm hearing is, folks, you get a nice front and back garden.
But it's a real world event, Actually, when you're at Product Earth, you don't really see people on phones that often. It's one of those rare weekends where you actually just look at people. Yeah, there's people taking photos here and there, but to be honest, it's more just like nice conversations going on and just a nice vibe. So, I absolutely love that. It's a time to switch off and to switch on, as it were. Switch off from the mainframe and switch on to real life. So yeah, I can't wait for it, to be honest. I really can't. And then I can't wait for it to be over when I'm doing it and everyone's shouting at me about something, a tap not working or something.
Yes. There is no victory in this, but in retrospect. So 10 years from now, whatever, when you're looking at it, that's when it's like, I mean, the further I get from the events I hosted, nostalgia kicks in like a bitch, and it's like, I'll do that again tomorrow. And then something creeps in and I go, no, that's why I'm grey. That's why my mental health is fucked, because of just running around trying to deal with hundreds of people and hundreds of problems. And just, yeah, I commend your efforts. I really do, especially given you're able to have such a presence on social media, given the nature of the event and the way that it's portrayed. I think it's respectable. And actually, here's a little plug for you accidentally, I suppose. It gives good credence, I think, to the work you probably do at Milk and Amber. I'm not saying that out of whatever, but if that's the same philosophy that's applied, then you're working within the restrictions of the space, but you're allowing there to be nuance in the space between the lines. And I guess not everyone's going to understand that, and that's unfortunate, but we're on that progressive thing, and I think, yeah, you're on the right track with it. You have my praise.
Nice. Cheers, dude.
No worries.
It's a rare thing.
Yeah, well, yeah, very, very rare. I don't even praise myself. Yeah, it's the acid. I told you. Nah, no, but
Yeah,
seriously,
exactly.
I mean
disconnecting from the ego. Disconnecting from the ego.
No, I mean it though. Like it takes a lot of balls to put on the event and to run it the way you guys have, and to evolve it, and to still be able to showcase the diversity of the space while creating an ethos that I do see in some areas spreading. So in terms of other events in the UK, in terms of the way some historic vendors have kind of evolved their positions and the way they operate, I think is commendable. It's not censorship. I think it's an evolution. It's a maturing. And I think part of what you personally have brought to this new iteration of Product Earth as well since lockdowns, the trajectory you're on, like I said, other than I want to keep you to task obviously over the years for this, my worry is the class thing of just in terms of it getting too exclusive and a bit hippy dippy for all of the hippies and the dippy. Do you know what I mean? Just the accessibility and the representation. But yeah, I think
doing one thing doesn't mean you're not doing something else as well. Don't worry.
Exactly. We need to erase this binary we were talking about before. Yeah, everything's on a spectrum. So yeah. No, it's good. I think I'll ask you my final question then, and then I'll kick you off and do my housekeeping. Same one you asked last year, so I've kind of put a joke. Well, it's not a joke; it's just a comment in the margins for myself, because obviously I end the podcast with "What does the future hold for you?" But then in the comments it says, "Well, that's at least until next year, because obviously I'll have you back on for next year's show." So, what are you up to the next 12 months? Where do you reckon the world's going to take you? Where do you want it to take you?
Me as a person?
Yeah, man.
Or the business. I mean, as a business, I think we've got a responsibility to portray the industry in the right way, but from a neutral standpoint. So this isn't our opinion of what is right, but we need to get people to take responsibility for the work that they're doing in this space, and we can do that through a number of different things. Education really is something I'm all about. I love it. I love watching people grow. So if I can somehow, or we can somehow build even more education for what we're doing, that helps further individuals' growth in this space, then I will be very, very happy indeed. And we've already got some very interesting conversations happening in that space. And then, with Milk and Amber, helping brands grow in the right way, building respectable brands in this space, I think is really important as well, and connecting people with the right kind of products that are good and, once again, safe for them. So it's all about education, forwarding the industry, keeping people safe, and hopefully having a good time while we do it.
Nice. There's a couple of quick comments I did before I let you go, just on response and rebuttal to your answer. I've just wondered then on
let's have the last word.
It's my fucking show. This is not the Matt Clifton life,
That should be your tagline. It's the Simpa Life. It's my fucking show.
I'm gonna try and get that on a t-shirt for the expo. Oh wait, the experience. Sorry, not the expo.
Exactly.
Milk and Amber. I was just thinking of a really good way to kind of advertise your services and to act as a kind of a bridge between I hate the black, gray, white spectrum. There's problems with it, but that kind of 1, 2, 3, 1 being lawful, 3 being very unlawful, 2 being in the middle. The guidelines and the things that you obviously help with the brands, obviously there's certain intellectual property and various approaches and packages that you sell as an agency, etc. But is there guidelines that you could produce to the public to help the people that are in that second category, in that gray area, prepare for an eventual legal change, or as Sub-Zero's done, and potentially step into that other realm? Is there ways that people can then find a presence on social media without being as limited or having to do as gimmicks, so that people can actually build a community and learn from each other rather than just, no offense, sharing fire and gas?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is what I mean by responsibility. Okay, I was afforded a huge amount of privilege when I was working at Facebook. I was there when big decisions were made. I know some of the internal policies which aren't shared externally, and there's a reason they don't do that, because as soon as you know the policy, you can game the policy. I do feel like there are things that we can be sharing publicly. I'll share one right now if you like. So if you are doing any kind of paid media where you are talking about cannabis, or you're talking about education in this space, whether it be psychedelics, anything like that, social issues verification. You need it. And then whenever you run an ad campaign, click on the social issues verification button, and then you'll go into a manual review, and providing you are providing accurate, unbiased information, your ads will fly. And this is how we run ads for Product Earth, as well as all of the clients for Milk and Amber. One thing takes 5 minutes, social issues verification.
Nice. A bit of an exclusive there for you folks. Do check it out. I just think, again, it's for all it's a contentious maxim or parable, I can't remember what descriptor it is of it, but the rising tide lifts all boats. At the minute, the way to rise that tide is by pouring the water out of the bigger boats, I think, back into the ocean. At the minute, so if you can have those kind of mechanisms that people can see an option for prosperity, that it's not all about the sorry guys, the gang lifestyle, as it were. There are other ways to make money and to build a future and to protect yours and your own.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It's less violence in the world, please, and people looking after one another, and anything that we can be doing to help pave the way for others to follow in that mentality, then of course we will do it. This is not a money-making exercise. If it was, I'm very bad at it.
Well, yeah, on other metrics, like I said, you're doing pretty well. So I think, I look forward to seeing sort of how that evolves. And as I've always said, like, I'm going to be a thorn in your side for a long time with this. So I respect you again for coming on and being so candid with this, and for allowing me to make you sound like a leftist loony. Yeah, so it's good. I'm gonna cut this up, put it all over TikTok. Yeah, it's over. All your former colleagues at Facebook are like, "You seen Matt? You seen Matt?" No, it's. I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed this, brother, and very
Good.
much look
Good.
forward to
Well,
seeing
and
you.
thank you for having me on as well. And you keep up your good work. Everything makes a difference. So, keep fighting the good fight.
Cheers, brother. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll give people discount code and whatever else as we leave. So once again, yeah, it's been a pleasure, brother. I'll let you get on to your day, and yeah, we'll catch up soon, man.
Nice one.
All
Take
right.
care.
Peace, brother.
Bye.
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 Well, there you go, folks. That was Matt Clifton. I hope you enjoyed that. That's a bit disjointed, a bit rambly. Yeah, this podcast brought to you by lysergic acid dimethylamide, apparently. Yeah, I enjoyed the conversation. Nice to get back in the hot seat after a month. There was actually, and still is, quite a bit of dust on my monitors because I haven't, yeah, been working for a bit. So I think that was a really nice first conversation to get back in the hot seat for. Reaching out to guests at the minute to obviously secure some more to get back to weekly runs. But a few issues with a few guests, and just struggling to get in dates and dates changing last minute. Like I said, I've taken obviously a bit of a break from my own mental health and well-being, and I'm currently enjoying it. And yeah, it's a slow pace of life. It's allowing me to read more books, to engage with more topics, to broaden kind of the horizons, my personal horizons, and kind of where I want this podcast to go in terms of its evolutions around, human rights and other issues that are intersectionally involved with cannabis and other drug law reform, which obviously is kind of my raison d'etre, I suppose. My reason for existing currently is to keep fighting this fight, is to be, I suppose, a friendly pain and thorn in the side of people like our guest today, Matt. So yeah, I do hope you've enjoyed this. And yeah, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody. I'm at, I think, 1,015 subscribers on YouTube. Really appreciate that, folks. It's a milestone I've been trying to reach for a while. And obviously, because of the language that we use on this platform, the various AIs that scroll different platforms tends to deprioritize a lot of these conversations because they are raw, they're authentic, and they're real. With people from around the world that have, a story and narrative, something that I feel is worth exploring, a conversation, a topic to bring to you guys. So yeah, I'm hoping to be back here every week, moving forward again to, yeah, provide you some unique insight into the world and to, yeah, enjoy some different conversations, because we all know, as we've just discussed with Matt there, social media can get a bit samey. Do follow his recommendations. It's something I'm literally going to go and do with my phone shortly, is yeah, not interest a lot of different posts and see if I can get my feedback to something meaningful so I can engage with more people, because it does feel quite isolating. It's a technology that is a tool. Ultimately, it's not necessarily a neutral tool in the same way a hammer or a drill is, but it has utility, it has function and use, and I need to be able to utilize it to be able to reach more people, not for egoic reasons, but to widen these conversations, because I want to learn. I want to bring you more entertaining conversations, to have more information, to learn more, to join me on this journey of knowledge. So I appreciate every single one of you for listening to these podcasts, for sharing these podcasts, for watching these podcasts, and for, yeah, being part of this, man, because you're the audience, you make this, and without you guys, I probably would still try and do this, but it's comforting and it's rewarding to me to feel heard, to feel listened, and to feel kind of validated, I guess. So yeah, I appreciate you. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that good shit. Check us out on all social media platforms, /the Simpa Life. Check us out on patreon.com /the Simpa Life, where for less than a cup of coffee a month, you can help me keep the many lights on this little project of mine. Yeah, you've been beautiful. I've enjoyed today. I'll see you next week. Probably not as giddy, but who knows? Might still be microdosing next week. We'll find out. All right. Peace and love, folks. We'll see you later. We'll be back with our regular scheduled content soon. Please hold.